Hey, how you doing? So we've got the full moon coming up, the full moon in Capricorn on the 10th of July. It's the 9th as I'm recording this, and I can already start to feel that energy, that shift. The full moon is in the sign of Capricorn, which means the sun is in the sign of Cancer and the moon is in Capricorn. Now, the moon in Capricorn can be very, very sturdy and serious and responsible. Can also leave us to feel really kind of disconnected from our humanity, where we really feel that emotional pull. So what I want to do in this forecast is really guide you through it in such a way that you really clearly get the vibe of this full moon and what it might represent, to get the sort of spiritual message that may be coming through from this full moon picture, and also maybe give you some possible next steps that might be helpful. I always think that every time we have a new moon and a full moon, the energy of it really continues for that next 2 weeks. That's why I do my forecasts in 2-week sections. So for instance, if I just add on to the stage my slides, you'll see that my next load of forecasts are going to be talking about from burden to boldness. I really see that this particular full moon in Capricorn is bringing up that sense of burden and responsibility and a heaviness. And what I see is over this next 2-week period leading us to the new moon in Leo, we're coming into a time where our free, bold expression is going to be the thing that really pulls us through and sets us on a new path. So I think this particular lunation, this particular full moon to new moon period, is, I think, really important. We're getting some opportunities to look at the full moon in Capricorn through a completely different lens. Often we think of responsibilities and burdens as being heavy and difficult and things that we have to carry. But I think this full moon in Capricorn is going to challenge some of those assumptions. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa Munson, and so welcome to Feel Good Astrology. If you've come back, thank you for coming back. I love that there's some familiarity, in the comments and stuff. It's really, really nice to sort of connect with people. So what I'm going to do is look at the aspects of this full moon. What is the planetary picture? Because it's not just the moon in Capricorn and the sun in Cancer. It's not just that. There's so much more to this picture. So I'm going to make it a lot richer for you, so you really get to see all the different things that are playing out. Some of these things that are playing out right now are playing out in the new moon in Leo, and the forecast that I'm about to release tomorrow will capture that for you. I'm also going to be looking at the Sabian symbol for this full moon using Linda Hill's amazing Sabian symbols. She's got a fantastic website called sabiansymbol.com. I'll also be looking at some of the asteroids that are feeding into this, namely Nemesis, Hermes, Eros, and there's a couple of others as well, and just other things that really pull it together. So let's get cracking. So what I'm going to do is go through this hopefully at a good pace. I do tend to because I set myself some slides, but as I'm talking, often new ideas come through, and so I sometimes do go a little bit circuitous, and if that's not for you, then you might want to run right now. But if you can handle that, then it might be a fun journey. So let's see what comes up. Before I do get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody that just does sponsor this channel, and also sponsors me, and maybe people who are part of my membership. There are lots of different ways to help out if you like the feel of this channel. So thank you very much. So this is the chart for the full moon in Capricorn on the 10th of July. Now, I set all of my charts for a UK time zone, mainly because obviously I live in the UK time zone. I'm actually in Portugal, but we're in exactly the same time zone. But the practical application of this is the UK is the midpoint across all of time and space, and that would be blowing smoke up its arse a little bit. But the UK is the middle time zone between all of the time zones across the world. So you go one way and they're ahead of us. You go the other way, they're behind us. And so this gives us the sort of average point of everything. And so whilst I've set this up for a UK time zone, you might find that, the sun and the moon at the time of your full moon are not in particular houses. I'm not actually going to talk about the houses. I'm literally just going to be talking about the planets and their positions. So as we come into this full moon, you can see the moon is here in the sign of Capricorn and the sun is here in the sign of Cancer, and they are in a T square with Chiron. Now, Chiron's the wounded healer, as you may already know. And so with Chiron, he's bringing up the stuff from childhood stuff, trigger points, sensitivities, insecurities that we feel, that feel very, very important to us. Even though a lot of the time we can't fully express why they're important to us, because, one of the reasons why he's the wounded healer is often these sensitivities and insecurities are shut right down in our childhood, by probably well-meaning parents, sometimes abusive parents, and also school systems, government systems. We are, as young children, young babies, we are absolutely input into via so many different agents agents of adulthood, and so sometimes we shut parts of ourselves down. So what this means to me is, around the time of the full moon, you're coming really into these moments of sensitivity where stuff from the childhood comes up, and you're like, well, I didn't realize I was harboring that. I had no idea that was going on. But these little patterns come up. So for instance, if you have that not good enough, it might not be that you just don't feel good enough. You might actually start to remember the last time you felt not good enough, or maybe go back even more historically. So you might start to unravel some of these feelings that you have in your current life, and actually start to understand where they come from. Sometimes we're playing programs that really were set up, in my case, like 40, 50 years ago, that I don't realize why they go on, but it's a belief that I might have had about myself. Similarly for you, maybe not as long as me, maybe a little bit longer than me, but we have these little reflexes which become our truth and feel really like our truth, and we live our lives, and there might be some areas that we don't go into, like these no-go areas, because we just know it's going to hurt us or upset us, but we might not always realize where that was first set up. This full moon is going to bring you closer to the truth of how that came in. And one of the things I do want to definitely bring about is the understanding with this full moon is going to move into a new moon in Leo, and that's going to be just here, in an opposition to Pluto, and they're all going to be in a T-square with Chiron. So whatever is going on right now is still going on around the new moon. So I'm not saying it's not going to clear, but there is a clear theme going on for the next couple of weeks, which really does speak of old stuff coming up. And it's not coming up to foil your plans. It's coming up because now is the right time for you to deal with it. Now is the time when you maybe have the right patience, the right level of wisdom to be able to do what you need to do, which I think is exciting. And Uranus has just gone into the sign of Gemini. And at that time, he was also in a very tight conjunction with Venus. As this full moon comes up, the two of them are still in a conjunction. And so, Uranus, wherever he goes, he's bringing up a shock. And sometimes, and I think with Uranus, definitely projections come out a lot more than usual. If you've gone through your Uranus opposition, you'll know that, because around that time, people are showing you so many different sides of yourself by their different types of behaviors. It's projections are really, really strong with Uranus. Uranus is a natural channel of things. So people in your company right now might be picking up on your insecurities and playing it back. I can only really liken it to, my children are, and my husband, they're the people I spend the most time with. And sometimes I see my children mirroring and reflecting back to me how I feel about myself. And of course, when you see your children maybe being anxious about themselves, or not feeling good enough, or feeling this, that, or the other, sometimes it can be a surprise, because if you're a parent, you'll know this. It's hard to see a little person run themselves down. Really, really tough. And all the things that you might do, you might put them on your lap, you might give them a hug, you might reassure them, you might actually, which is even better, is just listen to them and let them play it out, so that they get the chance to fully kind of evacuate it out of their mind-body system. What you would do with that child is actually what you probably needed back then and could really do right now. So Uranus is a projector. He is allowing these things for us to be seen, especially in his conjunction with Venus, which is showing that we have these unusual connections, these surprise people that come into our life. Perfect, by the way, right now, if you're single, this is another aspect, and that will come out absolutely in terms of the forecast that I'll be doing for the next 2 weeks. But to me, as I look at this, we have this relatedness going on that's going to allow us to have these little jolts, these little memory jolts, these little moments where we're able to see what's going on. And because we can see what's going on, we can actually do something about it. If you also look, Mars here is in a conjunction, coming into a conjunction with the South Node. That to me is an indication that we're about to take action on the past, and as we come closer and closer and closer to the new moon in another 2 weeks' time, on the 24th, 25th, according to where you are, yes, you'll feel that impulse to do something, like to take action on something that's happened in the past for you. So yeah, this is a very, very strong and stirry time. We also have Venus applying into a square with Mars. So that's coming in right now. And that will still be ongoing around the time of the new moon in Leo. And we've also got Jupiter separating from a very sort of tight and sort of, I would say, delaying kind of square with Saturn and Neptune, which has slowed us all right down in many respects. So we've got these two squares going on, crossing over each other as well. This to me is showing a certain level of kind of surface level irritation. The Venus and Mars one, I think, is the tension between your desire to yield and support versus take action and be independent, and to push forwards. There's a real kind of am I going to push or am I going to pull? Venus isn't much of a puller, but she is a kind of relax and see what comes to me. She's quite magnetic like that. So are you going to sit in place and allow things to drop in, or do you actually need to act? And there is some tension here for sure. And with Jupiter, Jupiter is separating from Saturn. Jupiter's raring to go. And yet there's this feeling that something is holding you back, some energy of respectability. Now, I do think this is a bit like a mini Saturn return. Now, if you've got to sort of 29, 30, or if you're around 58 to 60, you might be going through either your first Saturn return or your second Saturn return. These are very sort of highly responsible moments in time where we really do examine what's been going on and what load are we carrying on our shoulders, and do we need to offload some things, and if so, how? And so I do think this has the hallmarks of deep responsibility, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in so many different alignments with different planets right now. But yeah, this Saturnian moon really feels responsibility and is really feeling the disconnect from family and loved ones. It feels like we're on our own a little bit around the time of the full moon. We've also got, let me not forget, we've got this kind of cradle. I don't know how else to describe it. It's ongoing. It's been going on for a really long time anyway, and it's still ongoing. To me, this is the background architecture of our times. Pluto in Aquarius really wanting to sort of progressively push forwards with a new form of transformation that could actually take us into a whole new world in a really positive way. Mostly, I've seen the negative sides of it. I'm starting to realize it could absolutely transform things in a marvelous way. What's really occurring to me is the world that I grew up in, like 70s, 80s, early 90s England. To me, those times are long gone, and any kind of pining for that time, when it was more simple, kind of really before the internet started to come in a really major way. To me, these times feel very innocent, and most likely, there will be a time when you look back and think, oh, things were so easy then. I really think this cradle between Pluto and Uranus is pushing us and our technologies to the limit, and actually beyond limits. They're also both working with Saturn and Neptune, which is really showing an implication, possibly heaven coming to earth. Neptune is super connected and ethereal, and bringing it into a strong shape. I do think there are some very bold moves about to take place, or really taking place right now. It's not all about what we just see on TV and we think, oh, this is how it is. There's so much more going on. There's so many amazing collaborations, amazing people with really amazing, I've said amazing a few many times there, but with really vibrant visions for our future. So whatever is going on right now, we are in a sort of cradle of intense development. My true feelings at the moment is that my body can't keep up with the speed at which my mind is working and the speed at which everything seems to be coming into me. So I do think, how do we boundary ourselves a little bit, which is, again, a sort of Capricorn thing. If you think of the Saturn rings, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. How can we boundary our sacredness right now? How can we protect ourselves, protect our innocence a little bit from the sheer speed at which everything's going? And how can we embody and ground our truth so that we don't get knocked off balance as all these new, wild and sort of ideas and different frequencies are coming into our coming closer into our auric field. So to me, there's a hell of a lot going on right now. And now that Uranus has gone into Gemini, that was the last of the big moves we were waiting for. Things are going to start to move very fast. So I want to have a look at the Sabian symbol. So just in case you don't know, there are 360 degrees in a circle in our astrological birth chart, and there are 360 degrees of wisdom known as the Sabian symbols. And there are lots of different versions of the Sabian symbols. The Sabian symbols I like to use are Linda Hill's. One of the reasons I love them so much, not just because when I've read them, I thought, wow, that really does apply to my life right now, but because it's really easy to use her website. It's online. You can literally go sabiansymbols.com. So it's not even a difficult website to remember. But wherever you're looking at something, so I'm going to look at 18 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. It's 18 degrees 58. Whatever your main degree is, like, this is 18, it always gets rounded up, and you don't have to do the rounding up. You'll see I've looked for 18 degrees 50, it got rounded up to Capricorn 19, and here is the message. Now, of course, this is a message that we need to sort of decode into our own lives, and so I'm going to be decoding it from my perspective. But as I deliver this, have a think about how this lands with you, what themes are really resonant with you right now. So here it goes. A child of about 5 carrying a huge shopping bag filled with groceries. I mean, nothing says overburdened and responsible than that. This symbol shows having to carry heavy loads, to shoulder responsibilities, do chores and jobs, and help others. Sometimes because there's no one else who can or will do it. Often the child get these responsibilities because they are the ones who others know are going to take it seriously, completing the task, taking care of details. You may feel that you've been burdened with responsibilities beyond normal expectations and possibly beyond your capability. That's my sense right now, is that there's so much coming in, and I don't know how to protect myself, or I don't know how to say, yes, you can come in, and so it's like I need to do a bit of Tai Chi or a bit of kind of Matrix style Neo techniques. Despite being keen and enthusiastic, you must be careful not to try and take on too much or do too much too quickly. Like a child, you need to play, be creative, and rest. Growing up too fast, weighed down with responsibilities, taking on things above and beyond, being the one who pays, acting the grown-up, doing everything broad shoulders. So overloading the innocent and the inexperienced without thought of consequences, never being off duty, dropping the bundle, carrying the family. So anywhere where you feel like you've got all this responsibility on your shoulders, this is the energy of the full moon in Capricorn. And whatever you can do to offload, offset, kind of off-gas it somehow, that's really what the big work of this full moon is. But the full moon isn't the full moon without the position of the sun. They're always in opposition. So I want to see what the other archetypes, like the moon is really showing where our emotions are and where we feel really pulled, and possibly a bit dramatic, because full moons tend to be dramatic. But what of the sun? What is the sun revealing to us right now? So the sun Sabian symbol is Cancer 19, and it's a priest performing a marriage ceremony. That sounds nice. This symbol speaks of the ability or the necessity of bringing people together so that they may enjoy, grow, and learn from each other. It turns out the simplest expressions of the heart and mind often need to be acknowledged in a ritualistic performance so that we feel we are indulging in the customs and traditions of our society. There is a need for a sense of blessing from a higher power, whether this is about an actual marriage, a hand fasting ceremony, or other kind of bonding ritual. There's a need for people to come together to make commitments and vows to each other. Sanctified unity, expressions of loyalty, sacred vows, making levels of commitment, psychoanalysis that binds and bonds people together, accepting the shadow, ceremonies. Rigidity following established rules. This is where it goes a bit wrong, where the energy gets too much. So it can lead to rigidity following established rules and expense at the expense of ways that have greater personal relevance, forcing people together and bonding social expectations. So the way I see this is we've got this very kind of rich analogy here of doing it all on your own, having all the world's troubles on your shoulders, carrying the world's or the family's trouble on your shoulders, feeling responsible for the whole family, and feeling that sense of cutoff, because what the sun is offering is this sense that actually we can do this together. Actually, we can come together in our responsibility. Actually, there's probably things that we can share, we can delegate. We don't have to do this on our own. And so I really see that this is a sort of clear layout. Anywhere where you're feeling the pain of the burden, it's time to open up. It's time to share. It's time to commit to other people. I mean, I know, and maybe this is true for you too, because I do find that a lot of people that follow my channel, and you might be one of them who's following, they often have similar things that I'm going through, which I guess is normal because we attract people based on our vibration, our frequency. That's my belief anyway. Sometimes I do more than I need to because it's just easier to do it myself. And when I look at that, I realize that there's a lack of trust in me. And so for me, there's a huge lesson to trust other people to do things. And of course, the moment someone else gets involved in something that you think you could probably do better, that's difficult, because how can you possibly ever grow in trust and ever grow into a deeper relationship if you think you're better than other people? Does that work for you? Like, have you got that going on as well? I do think most of us are like that. It's really easy to do that, to think you have to be the savior and take everything on your shoulders like that. But when I look at it, I see it pulls us out of relationships with people. It pulls us out of trust. I know it's something that I'm definitely learning. That's my big aside today. So let's have a look at these asteroids now. So I've put in some extra stuff to the full moon. I just want to put a shout out as well to Alex's Asteroid Astrology. He has done quite a big piece on mythically named asteroids, and we've got some here, for instance, Hera. I'm pretty sure he's written about Nemesis and absolutely about Hermes as well. But these asteroids I've selected, I use serenu.com, SERENNU.com. And you can find out which asteroids are working with in particular the sun and the moon here. So I've looked at asteroids are really close to 1850 degrees, in the cardinal signs. And so what I've got is Hera. We've also got Asteroid House, we've got Nemesis and Hermes, and we've also got Eros. So I'm going to run through these and comment about what they might mean. So Hera, she's the Greek to the Roman Juno. And so she was married to Zeus, and Juno's married to Jupiter. So you get that sort of connection. So she's the goddess of marriage and childbirth. But she's also, Zeus cheated on her. And so she's really, really jealous of her rivals. And she's really jealous of the stepchildren that, the illegitimate children of Zeus. And so she kind of tortures them and makes it really, really hard for them. Abandonment is definitely a theme with Hera and with Juno, because it really shows what she's committed and dedicated to, what she absolutely loves, beyond compare. And of course, if anyone seems to muscle in on what she values as her prized attachment, then she gets very, very jealous and possessive and a little bit spiteful as well. So it's interesting that she is so close to the sun. The sun here, if you remember from the Sabian symbol, is really representing the sacred marriage, that sacred connection. and the sun in Cancer is reminding us that we have real life relationships, as opposed to the full moon in Capricorn, which is really encouraging us to be rational as opposed to emotional, encouraging us to be more status driven and more into the outer world versus the inner emotional world. And so Hera here is possibly showing that, around the time of the full moon, we're feeling quite protective and possibly possessive of the people that we love. It may well be physically talking about an infidelity or an issue between you and your partner, and the stress that comes about through that. The fact that she's connected to the sun in the sign of Cancer, to me, I think is an indication that maybe we need to come back into our feelings and come back into that simplicity of love, and to work out if it's possible to reconnect. Like Hera, of course, when she gets mad, that disconnects her. When you're in a place of anger, resentment, jealousy, possessiveness, you're kind of, even though you feel very attracted and attached to the person, and similarly repulsed, which is, I think very similar in terms of love. I mean, obviously love and repulsion are different, but the intensity of feeling that you have, with people that you're passionate with, as opposed to the people that you're repulsed with, it's a very similar intensity, different emotion, but in similar intensity. So I think, one of the things here is the intensity of feeling is kind of separating us from what we want to join with. And so I think the implication here is to come back into joining. When we're judging other people, we are by default separating from them, because we're A, not seeing them as perfect, B, not, like we're judging them for something. It's an implication of superiority. Obviously, all of these kinds of things are separating us from the actual simplicity of joining with another person. So that's interesting. It's also quite sexual and sensuous as well. We've got Eros, which is also another relationship planet. Eros is the son of Aphrodite and Ares. You might want to call him Ares as well. He's the god of war, and he's all about passion. So he has got that love plus war, or love plus deep masculine, and of course it comes out as what makes us horny, where we might chase, where we might really want to chase somebody, because we are absolutely turned on and distracted by them. And he was in love with Psyche, but he had loads and loads of trials going on there. So, he's showing what we might be chasing. And this is interesting because, to me, it's implying that we are caught between our desire for connection here with the sun in the sign of Cancer, and also our need to detract and separate from emotion, and to stay practical, and to stay burdened and responsible. It's almost like, we might be saying, oh, I don't have time for love because I've got to do this. It could also be poor me versus the you that is completely resourced and nurtured and looked after. Are you holding the victim template for yourself, or are you holding a template of wholesomeness and connection? And Eros, his need to chasing desires is right in between the two of them. I think maybe the thing you're chasing is stopping you from having a wholesome relationship, and also that sort of perpetual chasing for something is also just making it harder for you if you feel burdened or feel like a victim. So I would take this as a message of whatever it is that you're chasing right now is taking you further away from achievement and also further away from love. And I wonder what it would take for you to be able to sit back and let go of what you're so attached to. To me, that seems like quite a message. And of course, he's in opposition to Hermes and Nemesis. Nemesis is coming up right now, and she's a cosmic equalizer. She is known for being, I'd like to say, vengeful. She's not really that vengeful, I don't think. She punishes people for what they've done wrong. And so she is judging people, which is what I was just talking about. She makes sure that people have fair outcomes. If somebody seems to have just a dream life and they don't seem to have to work hard for it and everything comes easy to them, she tends to come down quite hard on them. So I do think there's possibly a little bit of jealousy there. Nemesis is also showing where you might be your own worst enemy and how you bring stuff on yourself. So this could be judgment turned inwards. I mean, it's one thing to judge people externally, but to judge yourself as well is a pretty big deal. So Eros being turned on and chasing for our desires is working in opposition to the idea of being punished, of bringing things on. It's all your own fault. I don't know quite how these work together yet, but I'm wondering when that story will drop. I'm sure it will drop as I talk more. So asteroid house. Now, I was contacted a few years ago by somebody who'd seen my asteroid videos about house. Asteroid house, it might have been on another channel actually, but I actually track asteroid house. I think it's quite helpful, especially if you're looking to buy a house or move house, for instance. Asteroid house often connects with I've noticed with the people I've worked with, and also with me in my own life. Asteroid house, when it connects to the ruling planet of your IC or the actual sign that asteroid house is in, to me that's usually precipitating a move. But anyway, I was contacted by somebody who was related to Mr. House, who I believe named asteroid house, asking me to stop using this asteroid because it goes against God's work. And, I understand not everybody wants us to use asteroids. And obviously this person felt very attached to the asteroid that, someone that they loved had named. I still continue to use it because I think it's useful. And I don't think, everything is a tool, isn't it? And so anyway, back to house. It's showing up here. I just wanted to, to like asteroid house, it was named asteroid house. It didn't show up necessarily in a birth chart and describe itself as a house. Like when an asteroid arrives, how does it get named? Well, this has been associated with homes, belonging is a real one. Like what happened in your home, what happened in your childhood home. How can you move beyond what's happened in your childhood home? What might you want to heal? And if you heal, how can you feel more at home? So to me, this asteroid here in a conjunction with the sun is reminding us that connections are what heals us or heal us. Connections are what it's all about, that sacred marriage, that sacred union, that sacred sense of, and for you, it might not be a partner. It might be your connection with God or the universe or whatever you feel in your view is the ultimate energy. It might be you really connecting to yourself. But to me, this is a question of belonging. Where do we belong? Do we deserve? So I really do think, do we deserve to have this love? Do we deserve to have this support? I think you do. I don't think we have to take everything on and take on the burden of life. Now, Hermes, he's a god of travelers, thieves, and merchants. So he is the Greek Mercury, and he is a messenger between the humans and gods. It's interesting that he's in a conjunction to Nemesis. So if we look at the sun now, and to me, there's an indication that anywhere where you've had problems with your relationships, possessiveness and jealousy, it's time to come back into that sacred union. Anywhere where you have felt like you don't belong, like you don't deserve, it's time to come into that sacred union with yourself. And of course, if you're not in a sacred union with yourself, you may well find that you become your own worst enemy, using the nemesis idea. Now, nemesis is working between your own connection and your own disconnection. And so to me, it comes up as a choice. Which are you choosing? Are you choosing to disconnect from life, disconnect from the yumminess of the sun in Cancer? Are you choosing to disconnect from support systems that have held you throughout your life? Like the moon in Capricorn, I think, is really showing us where we feel like I need to let go of the emotions. I need to just be rational. I just need to be calm. I need to be precise. I need to be practical. And of course, all of this is kind of cutting away from our essential human nature, which is to connect and feel and intuit. So to me, there is this inward fight going on in your consciousness. And however you choose it, you'll probably reap the rewards of your choosing, which is why Nemesis shows that you're your own worst enemy. I mean, we could turn that around and say you're your own best supporter. You know, wherever you're focusing yourself, you're going to reap the rewards of it, whether you like it or not. Now, Hermes is also a god, like he is the messenger between humans and gods. So to me, somewhere in between the desire for the rational and the desire to keep things calm and cool and strategic, and somewhere between your need to, or your desire or your longing to connect and feel that sense of belonging, somewhere in between there is the balance point. Somewhere in between there is the answer. So I wonder, you know, this might be something worth pondering about, you know, in you know, around the time of the full moon or leading up to the full moon. You know, how can I get that balance between the very rich felt experience that I have versus the very, what seems real, practical, rational, detailed, fact-based world that we live in. There's a bit of a challenge between the two of them. So if we're to wrap it up then, in terms of the vibe for the full moon on the 10th of July, I would say there is a transition from feeling weighed down by, you know, all the demands, whether it's the world's demands, your family's demands, your ancestral family's demands. You know, is there something that you feel like you're having to live up to, that you're having to shoulder, and that you know, is this something that is like, I guess what I'm saying is the vibe is anywhere where it's heavy, anywhere where it doesn't feel right for you or it's too much, you're encouraged to take a different path. You're encouraged to make a different choice. Like if I go back to these asteroids again, Nemesis is showing us that it doesn't matter which way we go, we're going to reap the rewards. So you might as well choose the one that feels the nicest. You know, and belonging and that feeling of deservability probably feels nicest in the body, and with the senses, but maybe not. Maybe to you the more practical, the more rational, the more manufactured energy feels right for you right now, and that's completely okay. You know, it's entirely your choice. And Eros as well, you know, down here, he's really showing the sort of like feeling of chasing. Now, again, the feeling of chasing is going to amplify your journey. It's not going to make it easier necessarily. So you might want to ask yourself, what am I chasing and why? But anyway, let's go back to the wrapping up. So to me, this is about freeing yourself from the heavy burdens. And to me, this is showing you that you always have the choice. You've always had the choice. You just never seen that you have the choice, but now you do. So this full moon, in terms of a spiritual lesson, is showing that your responsibility also doesn't have to be a burden. It could also be a foundation that you're building your whole life from. You know, and I like, you know, I liken this to sometimes, you know, we need to work harder at the beginning of something. You know, like if a plane is coming off the runway, it does all of its high energy work to get off the ground. But once it's in the air, once it's focused on its direction, it can take its well, I don't know actually how you fly a plane. I was going to say you can take your foot off the brake, like you can put your foot on the accelerator. Obviously it's not like that with a plane, but you know, I'm mixing my metaphors here a little bit too much, but to me it just feels like it might be right for you to have a bit of a burden right now, for you to carry the heavy weight, but to get really, really clear, you know, how long are you going to carry that weight for? And is it really necessary? You might be carrying a lot right now that just doesn't, you know, is old, it's not part of your current picture, and it's time to let it go. So, you know, there is, again, I'll go back to the choice. And once you realize you have the choice, it liberates you, allows you to put some things down, and also to share some of these burdens with other people. You don't have to take it all on yourself. You can share it within your sacred marriage and deserve to share it and know that somebody's got your back. And possible reflections, I would say it's time to reflect on our responsibilities that weigh yourself down. One way you could do it is to, when you think about your responsibilities and the things that you're working on, is ask yourself, does this feel heavy or does this feel light? Do I feel energized when I think about the things I've committed to do? Does it energize me? Does it inspire me? Does it make me feel excited? In which case it's a different kind of burden to the kind of soul crushing burden where you feel like I have no choice. This is what I have to do. There's no other options. I would still encourage you to be open to the possibility that there may well be another way to find freedom. And I also understand that, you know, when we've got the heavy weight of the world on our shoulders, we often don't realize that there are any other choices, because if we did, why would we do it? But anything that feels light when you think about it, you may well be able to use this as a springboard for where you're moving to, you know. So it might be that this full moon is showing you that it's time to knuckle down with this short-term project, like knuckle down for a bit to get your plane off the runway. And then you've put in the adequate work to make sure that this thing carries on to motor, it carries on flying. So this is encouraging us to shift our focus a little bit, because this could all be about our personal growth. So my last thoughts then about this full moon is that the heaviness is likely to come up, especially seeing as the Uranus and Gemini energy is really strong right now and things seem to be changing. I think I described at the beginning how it feels like the speed has been turned up like double time at the moment. It feels like there's so much coming in, and yet my physical body feels a little bit like, what do I do? Like a rabbit in headlights. And of course, when we're in that situation, all we can do is ground. We can ground through our feet. I realize I could get quite breathless when I when I deliver this information because I talk quite fast. But you know, it's time to breathe, and like conscious breath, and to realize that each breath is a gift in and of itself. You know, each breath is the next breath that's powering into your next decision and your next. So I think anything you can do to slow yourself down and to get grounded would be really, really beneficial. Kick your shoes off and put your feet outside. Connect with the earth as much as you can. See, the moon in Capricorn, yeah, it's all very rational and practical and wanting to be applied and not wanting to feel things. I understand that, but the Capricorn energy is also about grounding, and it is also about stillness. Sure, those Capricorns, they will climb that great big mountain, and they will do it slowly, and they'll take off a little, you know, one bite at a time, one step at a time. They will climb that mountain, which is very much a Capricorn energy. And so what I would say is just slow right down. You don't have to do all of your burden. Sorry, there's a big dog fight going on. All the local dogs are going crazy. You don't have to carry all of this on your shoulders right now. And if it feels like things are too much, sit down and breathe and see if it still feels like it's too much. Often things feel like they're too much when we are not taking adequate care of ourselves, when we're not really taking that moment to breathe, and come back into ourselves. That offers us a whole new perspective. As crazy as it seems, the breath is probably the most important thing. It's the first thing we do when we come into life, and it's the last thing we do as we exit this life. So to me, this really feels like a Saturn return. There's all the elements of choice. You know, do you want to carry this burden or not? It really has these strong overtones of this kind of Saturn return, but in a full moon. So yeah, have fun with this. See where it leads. Remember that the next moon after this, the next lunation, that, you know, the next new moon is going to be the new moon in Leo, and that's going to turbocharge things. Some of the stuff that we're doing in this next 2 weeks is absolutely familiar. Definitely there are some continued themes, but from the new moon in Leo on the 24th and 25th of July, there is that energy of speed and an energy of some fun. And so, yeah, go easy with yourself. There are going to be some fun movement times coming up, but right now this stillness is actually what serves. So sending you lots and lots of love. Have a fabulous full moon, lots of reflection. And yeah, if you want to connect, I can be found in my membership. All the details are below. You're very welcome to join us. And we have lots of conversations about stuff, and there's loads of different things going on there. But anyway, lots of love to you. Take care, and catch you in another forecast real soon. Bye for now.